Welcome to the Animal Energy Connection Conference. With me is Adele Leas, and she's founder and an internationally known teacher of Jin Shin Jyutsu for animals, and whose expertise lies in comprehending the balancing of body, mind, and spirit in all the diverse species while deepening the human-animal bond. For over 30 years, Adele has had animal clients and taught JSJ animal classes on 4 continents. In 1989, Adele received her first JSJ session after a drowning accident. She learned some self-help exercises, and after her first session, continued it daily. This practice set her free from constant illness. It seemed natural to share it with her beloved companion, Amity, a sickly, aging collie dog. She couldn't find a practitioner who worked on animals, so she started adapting the work to him. He turned out to be a very patient and willing recipient, and he responded quickly to the work. While having been a human practice for decades, her passion began working with domestic animals, both people's pets and rescue animals, and who became more adoptable after receiving this nonverbal expression of compassion. Sharing the work with wild animals and on several game preserves in South Africa, that increased Adele's ability to listen and body read, while showing her more about the deeper meaning of universal life energy. So today, Adele is going to be talking about an introduction to Jin Shin Jyutsu in animal companions. So welcome, Adele.
Hi there. Great. Happy to be here. So how many of you have thought about wanting to be Dr. Dolittle? I know I did, but of course I had no idea exactly how to accomplish that. And then through a series of unexpected events, my life sort of led me that way. As Dr. Jeff mentioned, in 1989, I was in this drowning accident and thereafter adopted this collie dog, Amitai, who, well, he was pretty sick. He had, quite frankly, chronic diarrhea. I did all the normal known things. We tried all the Western meds. I didn't know how to help this sacred, special guy. I was introduced to Jin Shin Jyutsu, and immediately I saw some results helping me, particularly for my breathing, which is really the center of this art. It is based in the breath. And in my immune system, and in my attitudes. And I thought, well, golly, surely it could help my best friend down here. And I went looking for a practitioner who worked in the art, and I didn't find them. So after questioning myself for a while, I finally got down on the ground, put my hands on him gently. Jin Shin Jyutsu is a non-invasive form of energy work. Put my hands on him when I was in the, quote, wrong places, which we'll get into. Didn't this fellow move under my body, under my hands, rather, to adjust his body to the right? These things that we call safety energy blocks, energetic building blocks of the body. Over time, with consistency and continuity, I saw the same kind of improvements in his health that I had in my own. It really excited me and interested me, and I just wanted to dive in and keep studying. So what is it? And what does one study? Okay. Big long name, Jin Shin Jyutsu, comes from an Oriental tradition. Although the truth is the energy of the body can be found in healing art forms for millennia around the planet. But I studied it through a form that came from Japan. Jin, translating as man or man of knowing, or compassionate man of knowing. Shin, like your leg, translating as the creator. Open parentheses, Jin Shin Jyutsu is not a religion. It doesn't ask you to change your religion or even that you believe in one. So if the word creator is a stumbling block, then you can think about it as the universal breath that unites us. And finally, the last word, jutsu, the art of. You put it all together, you get the art of the creator through compassionate man of knowing for your animal companions. How's that for a mouthful?
That's a lot. Yeah. But I like the fact that you separated the words from any religious context, which quite often when people talk about I call it Japanese or Chinese body management or anything, quite often it goes that route, and so it's good to be separated from that.
Yeah. So it seemed to me that since this art talks about universal life force, surely there was a way to share it with other species. And by that time in my life, as Amitai healed more and more, I had a human practice of this art here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And little by little, people just kept bringing me their animals. And they were great teachers. One specific day that stands out for me, I had somebody bring me a homing pigeon with a stiff neck, like this, and wanted me to come and work on a retired racehorse. I was new to the art, so I had a lot of questions. One of those questions were, we talk about these building blocks of the body, which we call safety energy blocks. If you break that down, energy, it's what it's made up of, locks, because if something's wrong, it locks. Safety, because it locks so that you don't blow out the whole system. It's almost like a fuse box. And let's see if this will show. This is a chart of the 26 safety energy locks on dogs.
Wow, good.
And
okay,
in the human studies, they say a safety energy lock is the size of your palm, a sphere of energy the size of your palm. But my question was, is it my palm? Or is it the hoof, paw, claw of the being I'm sharing with?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it was so great to have a homing pigeon and a racehorse, because that day I found out for sure, here he is with his stiff neck, sweet little homing pigeon. My big old klutzy hand is going to cover more than his whole neck. I found I was working with one finger. Okay. A couple hours later, aren't I working with this racehorse who's got this big old hoof? And clearly, my little old hand isn't nearly the size of his safety energy locks. It was a big aha. The energy, of course, the energy that we're talking about is the energy of the being you are sharing the world.
Okay, so it's proportional to the size of the animal that you're doing the quote treatment on.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. Because if you put your hand up against a pigeon, you can pretty well cover the whole body.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, which might
it's
be
not,
efficient,
it's not,
but
yeah.
it was a good learning tool to realize, oh, okay, one finger, that'll do it.
Okay. So what were you feeling with your finger or hand?
I always think of putting, sort of like putting your ears in your fingertips and you're listening with your hands. And ultimately, what we're listening for is that sensation of pulse, which is an indication of how this being is accepting life.
Okay. Yeah.
And you study that for a whole lifetime, but intuitively, you know what sounds like harmony and what sounds like chaos.
Okay.
And it's something I love about the work. 30 years into it, I could still study all day, every day. And yet, 20 minutes into it, you can have tools to set you on your journey.
Oh, okay.
Because we're composed of energy and we get there through our breath.
Okay. Yeah. So what type, first off, your dog that had the chronic bowel problems, how do we do on that?
So, took a little being. This is an art that teaches you patience. That's worth learning. So I would say it took me about 3 weeks to see consistent changes with him. But our pattern until then had been, antibiotics or something that would work great while he was on them, and then the rebound effect.
Right.
So I started getting some more consistency.
Without medication.
Without medication.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't boil rice and chicken. I did other things as well, but we started making this part of our life, our daily life experience every day. Not a big deal, maybe 20 minutes. One of the things I loved about it was that it also deepened our bond. And we were pretty close already, but I think it made him feel good. And if I was busy or missing it, that big old collie nose would come over and, get me under the elbow and say, Mom, come on, it's time to get on the floor with me. And I loved that too.
Good. Okay. So if I'm interested in following this up, where can, as in me as a dog owner, where can I get information on this?
Yeah, so actually, there's a bunch of different ways now, I'm happy to say. I'd probably start with my website, which very exotically is called Jin Shin Jyutsu for your animal.com. Mm-hmm. From there, you can find a whole page of videos that can tell you how to start. I also have a book available there. Looks a whole lot like that. And then there's an audio book. Pardon me, there's an ebook and charts. And then we have online classes and in-person classes. Finally, we're coming back to more and more in-person classes. And I have trained 10 faculty members now, all of whom are just spectacular throughout the US and Canada. And hopefully we'll get more around the world. But for right now, they're in the US and Canada, and they are starting to have more and more in-person classes.
So here's a thought that came to me, and that is, if you were to look at this modality and compare it to Reiki, what's the difference, or what's the similarities?
So for sure, there's way more similarities than there would be, say, to brain surgery. Mm-hmm. And I have to say parenthetically, I'm not completely familiar with Reiki. I've had a few sessions, but I wouldn't pretend to be an expert on it. But The difference I know is that this is usually done through hands-on, and I believe Reiki is often done at a distance.
Yes.
I've been told that the flow patterns of Jin Shin Jyutsu are actually closer to acupuncture than they are.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I've also got a speaker on acupressure.
Okay.
Which of course follows meridians and such, right?
Right.
So,
And we call them flow patterns, but I think that gets to be the difference between the Chinese heritage and the Japanese heritage.
yeah, there's a lot of cross-cultural work going on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
How wonderful. Thank heavens.
yeah. No, that's it. That's what I was trying to eke out of you, and that is, yeah, this is a different one. It's Japanese based. Reiki, of course, is Japanese based.
Yes.
But then you go to acupressure, acupuncture, any of those, they're Chinese based, and they have a different, if you want to call it, belief system behind it, or philosophy behind it.
Philosophy,
right?
yes.
Yeah. And but the thing is, if you were just, I'm sure the viewers are starting to realize this, if you start looking and watch all these in this conference, you're going to go, well, that's doing the same as that one.
Because there's only, and we're made up of energy.
Yeah. Which is great.
Moving towards harmony. So, it's better than all the flavors of ice cream out there.
Yeah, but the point I look at, and this is the same with nutrition, and that is, if you're doing something like this, it's better than doing nothing. Far better. And hey, we can get some benefit from this. And if people want to explore these different modalities, because I've now got people that have courses available to our viewers now on all these things, which is great. You can get exposed to it. And that was the whole point of this conference. And that is, let's get this stuff out there. Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about a couple of successes you've had with your Jin Shin Jyutsu.
All righty. Two come to mind right away. And so a lot of my life has been dedicated to working in rescue facilities. I'm really, it's just a passion of mine. And I have been on staff now for 13 years at a place called Aliqua Animal Refuge in the Panhandle of Florida. And we had a dog come in last year who had been, he was a little golden doodle, and he was purchased as a puppy by a family with 5 kids, and he was a puppy. And he was a little wild guy, and he ate things he shouldn't have, like children's socks. And the father got very upset, took him to the vet and said, we don't want him anymore, put him down. Luckily, the vet called our rescue, and we went and got him. And when we picked him up, it's simultaneously like a pot fell or a book fell or some loud noise happened. And the woman who went to pick him up said, this dog doesn't listen to directions because he's deaf. So they brought him back to the refuge, called me up and said, can you come tomorrow and start working with him? And I did. And at first he was just a wild child. And I believe in giving them a Kong, or let him do what they want. Let him chew while I work on him. And then after about half an hour, he kind of relaxed enough that he actually let the Kong go. Okay, that was the first session. The next time I came back, I was working on him, and a car backfired in the parking lot. And he did that. And that was a big change. And I went to the medical staff and I said, can we check for ear infections? Well, I'm telling you that there was a response. And they said, no, he started responding after your first session. So as I continued to work on him, it kind of became clear to us that he had chosen to not hear out of fear. And over time, and I'm talking weeks, not months or years, he started to hear more. And he was particular about it. He only chose to hear women for a while. And then there was one very, very wonderful young caretaker, a guy, and he would look at him. So I went to the owner of the refuge and I said, please, he loves this work. He responds so well. Before we put him up for adoption, can I reach out to my students and see if he could go to a home where he would get Jin Shin Jyutsu on a continuous basis?
That's great.
So I sent out an email to all of my students, and even better, one of my faculty members said, oh, he's for us. And I drove him halfway to Indiana and she met me. And now, about 1.5 years in, he has about 80% hearing. And he has a great life, 5 brothers and sisters, and doggy and cat, brother and sisters.
Oh, okay.
And a very beautiful life.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, very fulfilling. And that's what I loved, because I had no idea that would happen. And yet you share the art in hopes to bring peace.
Mm-hmm.
Breath, exhale, letting go. And then the miracles can happen. Yeah, the second story is a big surprise for me in my life, and just one of those things I count as a miracle. I was able to go to South Africa and work at several game preserves. And at one of them, there was a little orphaned black rhino baby. The mom horribly had been poached for her horn, but the babies go through great trauma. And so he'd been brought in, but he was really so scared, so untouchable. And they often perish from dehydration because they won't accept food or milk from someone other than their mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, can I offer this to him? And they said, well, you can't go in. He would have to choose to come to you. And so I sat down outside of his enclosure, which is about the size of a football field. And I worked on myself, which is a big part of Jin Shin Jyutsu.
Mm-hmm.
And he came on over to me, and I could reach through these bars. And he stayed for about half an hour. And then he took the bottle for the first time.
Oh, great.
And
okay.
It was a life changer for me, and I hope for him.
Yeah. Did you follow up with him at all?
I tried to, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot more involved in there, obviously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that really shows the sort of the emphasis that you can put on things, and that is trying to get them to be more accepting, feel better, and then get them on track for I'll call it recovery.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great. Just the way it is, and it's such all these different energy techniques all have a different focus, in terms of how they're doing it, but they all have the same basic thing behind them, and that is establishing, I call it a contact, or doing something like that. And so, but thank you for explaining that as in sort of what it could be used for. And I'm going to leave it up to the viewers to pursue this in terms of where they want to go. I'll have your website below so people can check that if they'd like to. And let's see if we can just make things a little bit better for one animal out there.
Yeah, that's just wonderful.
Okay.
That's my goal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for being on board, Adele. It's been good.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. And anyway, if you haven't seen the other videos going on the acupressure, the Reiki, and all the all the other ones on distant healing and healing as such, make sure you check them out, because you're going to find one of those will go in tune with you, as in you're going to be attracted to one of them, or maybe two. But that way you can pursue something and get something going. So, does that sound like a good idea, Adele?
I think it sounds like a grand idea. I'm really happy to be here with you, and I'm just knocked out by the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so get working on watching the other webinars, and we'll see you later on.
Bye-bye now.